scripture lesson for the sermon this morning is taken from the book of Exodus. First chapter, beginning with verse 6. Joseph died, and all his brothers and all that generation. But the sons of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly and multiplied and became exceedingly mighty, so that the land was filled with them. Now a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. He said to his people, "Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, or else they will multiply, and in the event of war, they will also join themselves to those who hate us and fight against us and depart from the land." Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every man who is born you are to cast into the Nile, and every daughter you are to keep alive." Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a daughter of Levi. The woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got him a wicker basket and covered it over with tar and pitch. Then she put the child into it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. The child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moses, and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." May the blessings and the understanding of our God be added to this portion of his word. We have just celebrated the birth of our nation last week with great festivities, music, fireworks, prayers, and lots of political praise. Someone said a long time ago, religion and politics do not mix. And as we observe our life, we must concur. Our forefathers, when they formed our nation, must have believed pretty much the same thing, for they had recognized through the lessons of history that religion and politics do not mix. So according to the history lessons you learned in civics class or political science, our forefathers devised a system by which religion and politics would forever be divided. Now, our religious and political forefathers were not illiterate. They were very wise. But we sometimes wonder, were they naive? Did they just not really realize how life is? How religion and politics do come together and seemingly for a while work together. And yet, as we have observed history through the centuries, we recognize that there is a parting of religion and politics when one attempts to overcome the other, when one presumes to be right and the other wrong. Then there is a division of the house, and there is a division between politics and religion. Politicians, as we have observed, use religion to their own benefit, and there are times the religious world uses politics to their benefit. It is not a modern issue. It is an ancient issue. Some believe slaves should always be slaves. It's in the Bible. It's in the book. Others believe that slavery was wrong. It should be abolished. President Lincoln, among others, believed that. And our country was split asunder. Went through a terrible war. A terrible war. The issue of religion and politics existed at least 3,000 years ago in Egypt. Our scriptures tell us Joseph died, and his entire generation. In the very opening verses of the book of Exodus, it indicates that when Joseph's family, his father Jacob, known as Israel, and his sons and daughters and servants came to Egypt, there were 70 souls that came. Joseph was already in the land. And because of Joseph's position in the politics of Egypt, his family received one of the most luscious places of all of Egypt, the land of Goshen. And there the refugees settled in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen in Egypt. For almost 500 years, the Israelites were in Egypt. And there arose a new king in Egypt who did not know Joseph, who was president of the United States 500 years ago. We didn't have a president 500 years ago. We didn't have a political system 500 years ago. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He bumped into America by mistake. He thought he was going someplace else. And the country in the West was discovered. And it struggled with the wilderness and finally was established in 1776. 500 years. 500 years from Joseph to Moses. 500 years from Columbus to now. What enormous changes took place. Our scriptures tells us what happened in Egypt. This new king of Egypt, this new Pharaoh, who is not even named in Scripture, recognized the situation. The refugees are no longer just in Goshen. They are everywhere. We got to do something about it. We have to control this population growth. So an edict was given in all the charity hospitals across Egypt. Whenever there is a birth among the Hebrews, if the birth is a boy, do not bring it to life. Let it die. But if it's a girl, let it live. Now that's one way to control a designated population. But it didn't work. The midwives of Egypt decided to go against the law of the land. And they did not destroy the little Hebrew boys. They let them live. And when they were brought forth before the powers that be, they said, how come this is happening in the nation? We don't know. These Hebrew women are something else. When they decide to have a child, they have a child. Before we can even be there to help. Our hands to be frustrated by a few women, so he ordered a more severe law. All boy Hebrews shall be drowned in the Nile. That is the ultimate solution. And day after day after day, little boy babies were washed up on the shore out of the Nile, drowned in the Nile. But there was one family, the Hebrews, born of the tribe of Levi, the priestly tribe of Israel, who decided, we are not going to destroy our little boy. So Moses' mother attempted to hide him for some 3 months. For whatever reason, she decided, I can no longer hide him. We have to do something. So they decided to make a little ark. It's interesting that the ark of Noah and the basket which Moses was placed in is the same word in Hebrew. The ark. The means of salvation. And they set it afloat on the Nile. It floated on down the Nile and became lodged in the bulrushes where Pharaoh's daughter took her morning bath. Now, I don't think that this was just by chance. This was the design. For older sister Miriam watched that craft go down the Nile and be lodged, or she hoped it would be lodged, where Pharaoh's daughter took her morning bath, and the little baby started to cry. And Pharaoh's daughter heard the cry and ordered one of her servants, see what the noise is. And the servant found the little baby in the basket and said, it's a little baby. Bring him to me. And they brought the infant to Pharaoh's daughter. She took the white child up in her black arms and held him close. She noticed he was Hebrew, not just white, but a Jew. Hebrew. She says, what am I going to do with him? She had choices. She could put him back in the basket, set him afloat on the Nile, and let some other person make the decision whether or not to drown him, the law of the land. But she decided, she chose to keep him. Sister Miriam came and said, Princess, would you like me to get a Hebrew woman to come and nurse him and take care of him? And Pharaoh's daughter was not used to such responsibilities. So she says, that sounds like a good idea. Go ahead. Miriam went home, got her mother, Moses' mother, and brought her to Pharaoh's household. She became a hired servant of Pharaoh's daughter, paid a decent wage as a nursemaid, and she had the opportunity to rear her child in the traditions of their people. He grew up, became second in command of all of Egypt. The only one above him was Pharaoh himself. Pharaoh gave to Moses those responsibilities he no longer wanted to fool with. Says, whatever Moses said, you do. Hard times came to Egypt. Drought. Soon lack of food. And for shepherding his father-in-law's sheep. Until that eventful day, he saw a flame, a bush aflame, but it was not destroyed. And a voice came to him, Moses, Moses, I have a task for you. He said, who is it? He said, I'm the father of your father Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. I want you to go to Egypt and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Moses had a choice, a decision. He made it. Once, to every man and nation comes the moment to decide. In the strife of truth or falsehood, for the good or evil side, some great cause, some great decision, offering each the bloom or blight. And the choice goes by forever twixt that darkness and that light. Then to side with truth is noble when we share her wretched trust. Ere her cause bring fame and profit, and 'tis prosperous to be just. Then it is the brave man chooses, while the coward stands aside, till the multitude make virtue of the faith they had denied. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet the truth alone is strong. Though her portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown stands God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. The words of James are low, penned 1845, 20 years before the Civil War. Moses had a choice. He chose to do what God called him to do. Each and every one of us have that choice. And the decisions we make determine not only our present, but our future. May we choose